morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Terence. I see you already there on LinkedIn. Good morning. I trust you are doing good this morning. And it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. You know, it's been raining for the last couple of days. And I think that it seems like it's going to be a nice one. It's really beautiful when you come outside and you see the water droplets on the grass. And, you know, it looks like there's something new about to happen. And I really hope that is exactly what's going to be the case. And welcome on this Sunday morning. Thank you very much for joining me. And let me go. Just remind everybody to say hi when you join. Thank you very much for being here. So I see Chart, you're on YouTube this morning. Change is as good as a holiday, they say. Good morning. Bye, welcome, Chart. And then Matthew Westphal, welcome to the show. Matthew, thank you very much for saying hi. I really appreciate it. I hope you're going to enjoy it with us. So I see, Chart, I'm not sure if you're on both. I see you also saying hi over on LinkedIn. So we are live on both LinkedIn and YouTube at the moment. That's what we do every day from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. And the whole idea behind this live stream is to give you a place to come and spend some time and just, I think enjoy a bit, get your morning started right and get you focused. And then also to give you some ideas and things that you can go and use in your business. I focus primarily on financial advisors and financial professionals in general. But a lot of the things we do is going to work for any kind of entrepreneur or business owner, because the principles of business remain the principles of business. It doesn't really matter what it is that you do. There may be little nuances and little, specific special things that is going on and how you apply it, or things that one business can do that you may be not allowed to do because of regulations and whatever. But at the end of the day, the principles of business remain exactly the same. And that is what I want to talk about. Good morning, Cindy. Welcome terug. Baie dankie dat jy hier is. So Chart says he's back on LinkedIn. He left YouTube's. I am really excited about today's topic. It's something that I've been thinking about for quite a long time. I recently attended a meetup, a WordPress meetup that was held virtually, which is obviously the new way of doing things. And the guy that was speaking, and I can't remember his name now, but he spoke about, and it's something that comes up quite a lot. If you go look on YouTube, a lot of the creators and those kind of people are talking about that the riches are in the niches. So obviously we talk about niches and things like that. And I've been thinking about quite a lot about that for the last year or so already in my own business, because I'm trying to get to a place where it's very, very clear who I work with and who I focus on and what I do for them. And it's something that seems a lot easier when you read books, you watch videos, you listen to podcasts, but go sit down with your pen and paper and then you try and figure that out. It's a hard journey. And I think most of us actually battle with that. And when I attended this session last week, I just thought to myself, you know what, this is maybe something that we can also talk about in our space, what it is that we do specifically. Obviously that talk was really done towards the web design, web development sort of space, and people doing freelancing and having businesses doing that. But some of those things are very important, and it reminded me of something that I sort of, a book that I listened to, because I listen to books on Audible. And it's just, again, and this also came out yesterday, by the way. So yesterday we were talking about quite a number of things. And one of the things was that, but I know all these things. I'm not learning anything new. I've heard all of this before. But here's the thing, again, even though I knew the stuff that this guy was talking about, and even though I listened to this book, it reminded me, it made me aware, because what happens is we typically do things and then we decide I'm going to implement some things. And then before I know it, I'm running off doing all sorts of other stuff, because life happens, business happens, family happens, all that kind of stuff. And then you just tend to get back to that groove that we spoke about yesterday as well. And then you don't do and you forget. So this was a very stark and harsh reminder for me that, there are things that I planned and that I focused on that I never maybe saw through. And that's why I got to last night and said, well, maybe that's what we need to talk about today. And I'm asking the question about, is it wise for financial advisors or financial planners to focus on a specific niche? Is it even viable in that sense? Because for me, it feels like, from my point of view, if I only work with financial advisors, it's not a very big market, right? And even within that market, if you look at the different subsections and the different things that people are focusing on, it becomes a lot more difficult in order to say, well, is this market big enough? Is it viable, etc. So before I get into everything today, good morning, Neil. Welcome back. Kirsty Scully, nice to see you here. That's fantastic. Oh, today it's foggy in Cape Town, right? So it's been so sunny and nice in Cape Town. The last few days when we were having rain and extreme cold, it felt like winter has already arrived. And so now you're joining us today because it's still cool outside. But at least the sun is shining this morning a little bit. Really excited about that. All right, so let me get all the stuff here that I need to show you and that I would like to show you, and then we can get cracking. Guys, please remember that you can ask your questions in the chat if you've got any comments. And also, I want you to engage with one another. So if somebody asks a question or somebody, talk to one another, have a chat, because that's what this is about. This is like one big let's have coffee together kind of idea. So it's about more than just me sitting here sharing information with you and then you having to interact with me. I also want you to interact with one another. Thanks. Sorry, I did order myself a brand new coffee because the first coffee already got cold. And, well, I did finish it at least. But I needed some fresh coffee to really get going because I'm so excited about today's session. Guys, and then I just want to say really from the bottom of my heart, everybody that's here every single day, thank you very, very much for doing that. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you spend some time with me, and I hope that I give you a lot of value and that there's a lot of things that you can at least go think about. And even if there's one thing through all of the sessions that we've done that you implement and that makes a real difference to your business or to your life, or just helping you with your mindset, whatever it may be for you, then I've achieved more than I thought I would. So thank you very much for that. I don't take it for granted. And it's just, it's a privilege to do this for you every single day. So, all righty, let me get into this. So first off, I think when you saw, I don't know how you felt when you saw the picture. It will be quite cool to actually hear what you thought about the thumbnail for today, because that thumbnail said, let me bring it back up on the screen, niche to be rich. And I don't know how you felt when you saw that, as a financial planner or financial advisor, is that something that you felt was, oh, yes, exactly. We want to be rich. We do a great job, but we want to be rich. Or did you feel like, whoa, this sounds a little bit, focused on the money kind of thing? So I want to make the statement is that when I think about niches, and specifically when I think about riches, it's about so much more than the money. It is not a money thing at all. But the problem is that in our minds, we feel that this notion about thinking about money and focusing on money is wrong. Well, I don't think it's wrong. Why did you start a business in the first place? And this doesn't even matter whether you are working as a tied agent for a product provider or whether you are an independent financial advisor, because that's sort of the scope, where on the one hand, you are actually employed by a product provider and you do the work, although you work on commission and everything, they treat you like being self-employed. That on the one hand, versus on the other hand, being completely independent and being responsible for everything that happens in your business, every single decision, making sure the compliance is running well, having systems and processes and things in place. The agent on the other side, a lot of times get a lot of that as a starting point, and they can obviously adjust that and make it work for them in their specific practice. But why did you start that business in the first place? I mean, surely it is not because we wanted to do charity. If that's the case, then you should have started a charity. Everyone is in business to make a profit. And I think what is much more important in terms of that is the way you make your money. It is not how much money or how little money you make. There is nothing wrong. And I learned this from, you look at a lot of people where they help people. And I don't know, for some reason, we feel like if I genuinely want to help you, then I shouldn't be compensated. I shouldn't charge you for it, because if I charge for it, I didn't genuinely want to help you. I didn't really, have your best interest at heart. I didn't really put you at the center of what I'm doing because I'm charging you for it. So it didn't come from my heart because there's money involved. And I think that is a completely wrong notion to have. And I'm talking from my own perspective. I've had that for a very, very long time, because I always tell people I want to help because that's what drives me. But when I do that and I need to send you an invoice, I feel bad. I really, really feel bad. And there's lots of reasons why that could be. But I think a lot of financial advisors and planners feel exactly the same way. There are obviously those ones that, no, they don't, okay? Because they feel they did a good job. I added value. I did what I say I wanted to do. So I need to get compensated for that. And that is the right mindset to have. There's nothing wrong with that mindset specifically. Just to get back to my point is that the way we make our money shouldn't be an issue. When you do the right things for the right reasons and you make a difference to people's lives. I was sitting in a session last year. It was in the last quarter of last year. And there was this guy on stage, talking and sharing and just doing a lot of stuff. And I was just thinking to myself, you know what, this guy helps so many people. He helps so many people and he comes from the right place. But when he does that, you need to pay him for it. And that was a big mind shift for me to say, you know what, people still like this guy. People still believe in what he's doing. People still get a lot of value. And if you help somebody make that change, or if you better somebody's lives, they are willing to pay you for that. I don't know, just think about that for a second. I think it is so powerful if we are able to do that. And if we don't just focus on, let's just say, oh, I need to do so many applications this week, or I need so much commission. It's where the focus is. If the focus is on the right things, then whatever you get paid for that is actually irrelevant at the end of the day, because you did the right thing for the right person for the right reason. And I'm now going on and on and on about this, but I think it's a very, very important point that I want to make and that I have to make in order for us to set the scene for what I'm about to discuss as well. Then, also being rich has got a lot to do with other things, things other than money. It's also about how happy you are, So some people are very happy making 50,000 Rand a year. Very happy. They are quite content with their life. They are content with everything they're doing. That's what they want, because they've got this happiness that just comes from within, because they do great work. They enjoy what they're doing. There's fulfillment. They feel like, I'm really living my purpose. I'm really living my life the way that I want to. I'm doing the work that I'm really, really passionate for. That is being rich. It doesn't only have to do with, I make 100K a month or 200K a month, or it doesn't really matter. And I think if you're so happy and you have this fulfillment, then surely you must be satisfied beyond measure, so that you just, the satisfaction just keeps on coming. Okay. And all you hear the whole day is that song. Isn't there a song about satisfaction? I think there is. And when you have all these things together, you're able to be your best self. You're really you're really able to do the best work for the right people, and you work with people that are really, really close to your heart. And you know that for these people, I make a real, real difference, and I can see it every day, and they can see it every day. Now it doesn't matter what business you're in, whether we're financial advisors or you're an accountant or you're a tax practitioner. These things apply to everybody. Even if you're selling beds for a living, it's the same thing. All right, let me see quickly before I move on to my second point. Morning, Shlanganani. Hi, Ryan. Nice to have you here. Yes, we've got Cape Town in the house today. It's awesome. I love it. Kobus says some of us like punishment on an empty stomach and even on a Sunday, it appears. Hey, Kobus. Must be the voice, or is it the content, or even maybe the community feeling? Maybe it's everything, Kobus. I hope it's everything to that, because, by this time, today's our 17th episode. I think by now, if you close your eyes, you're hearing my voice anyway. So sorry for that. Kirsty says to Kobus, I like the community, and Francois gives us good food for thought. Thank you, Kirsty, for that. Charlie saying hi to Kobus, eager to learn, doing this and the church service to complete the day. Fantastic. Rich in knowledge, says Langanani. And hey, Hemant, welcome. Good morning. Nice to have you here. We communicated via WhatsApp the other day. So thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. And then I see there's a comment here over on YouTube as well. I see another Cape Townian, Malcolm Hendricks. Hi from Cape Town. I'm new and liking this. Thank you very much, Malcolm. Welcome. So Cape Town, guys, you are here represented very well. I love that. So yeah, let's continue. I love it. Sorry, I'm laughing I'm so happy. It's fantastic. All right. So then I want to talk a little bit about, when we start out. So now that we know that, being rich doesn't only have to do with money and how much we've got in the bank and how much money we make every month, etc. It's really about everything else that also comes with that. But it is important to understand that money does form part of that, and there's nothing wrong with it. That is why anybody starts a business. You can tell me because I want to do things my way. I want to do things in the right way. I want to change people's lives. I want to have an impact. I want to change the world. Yes, that's great. But ultimately, you can't do that unless you make money. Unfortunately, that is the one thing that always rings true. So we have to have a healthy relationship with that, just like we need a healthy relationship with selling. And that's also another point that I'll discuss in another episode, possibly, is talking about sales and selling and our relationship with that and where it fits into the whole way that's maybe a good way to approach financial planning. But, what happens when you start out? And now some of you may have to go back 20 years. Some of you maybe have to go back 30 years, and some of you only have to go back a year or so. But when you started in financial planning, usually what happens is there's some form of a focus to get you going, right? So it'll be something like, your 100 closest friends and family. So you go through your phone and you choose 100 people, and then you start phoning and asking for appointments, and you need to get through all 100 of them. And that's sort of to kickstart you. I think the problem with that is that it's great because family will do business with you to help you. Some of them, not all of them. Sorry, I'm drinking more coffee today because it's quite cold. And you start off like that, and then you get sort of into that mode of, I'll speak to anybody who's willing to listen to me. I'll speak to anybody who's willing to give me an appointment. I'll speak to anybody who may seem like they're able to pay for the policy or the service, or however you've positioned yourself in your business. Then also what happens typically is that here and there you get a referral because you're being taught to ask for referrals. And then that first bit, maybe we ask, or the first bit, maybe we don't ask because we're not comfortable to do so. And it's weird to ask somebody that you don't really know for referrals. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, but some people it's just no problem. They will do that. But I think for most people, it's hard to ask for referrals. And over time, when you build up trust, referrals will start to happen automatically. But that's a completely different conversation again. So I don't want to ponder that point too much. But when you start working with anyone that's willing to listen, those same people are giving you a referral here and there. Our practice starts to take on a life of its own, and it moves down a direction that maybe we didn't intend for it to go. And we just built this client base, and there are a lot of people that are very proud to say, listen, I've got 1,500 clients. I've got 4,000 clients I've heard before, so they've got this big, and it's only the one advisor. I've got so many. No, and then but that's what happens when there's no specific focus and you just try and do everything. And why do we do this? Well, very simply because you try and survive. If I can just make it through the first month, then the second month, then the first year, then the first 3 years, then the first 5 years. They always talk about the first 3 years. And then a lot of people say, if you can make it through the first 5 years, then you'll be okay. But it's hard. It is very, very hard. And that's what we do. And I have these conversations regularly, like I'm almost like a preacher. Whenever I get a chance, I try and talk to people about my opinions and my views and try and influence the way that they think. And last year specifically, I facilitated for Molpark the NKF6 qualification, and I had it was a fantastic group of people that was in this class. And what made it so fantastic is it's all been people that's been in the industry for a long time. And half of them I knew from my previous life as a consultant and as a manager. So I knew them. So it was so fantastic to work with these people who love what they do. They are so entrenched in what they do and the way that they do it. So it was a perfect opportunity for me to sort of start throwing things into the bush and see what jumps out. But, you know, we've been taught, and that's where I picked it up, that we've been taught that you do everything for everyone. You help them because somewhere down the line, some auntie from Cape Town who knows somebody who lives in Mauritius, who knows someone who lives in Joburg, is going to send you a referral, or when they retire, they're going to come to you. And that's how it's worked for a very, very long time. And that's how we're taught. And I guess in business, it is like that. But, you know, you work and you work and you work and you work for someday. And that's great. If you can make it till someday, that'll be fantastic. The other thing that we do is we position ourselves as, you know what, I can do anything for anyone. That is how people start to know you, because it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor, whether you're a teacher, whether you're in the police force, whether you're a business owner, whether you are, you know, a trainer. It doesn't matter what you are, whether you work in web design, or it really doesn't matter. We can help you. We have a solution for you. In this little toolbox of mine, I can get, well, whatever you need, I'll get it. I promise you, I can help you. And, you know, typically what happens is that's how people see us. They're all, one hand, well, you can do anything, which doesn't really mean much, really, if you think about it. But also they may see you like everybody else, because everybody else is saying, I can do anything for you. I can do everything for you, you know. And that's sort of what I want to get into in my next point. Let me just see if there's some more comments here. Neil says there is no other industry that has the benefits that ours does. No, that's very true, Neil. Financial freedom, recurring revenue, time freedom, and the ability to help others in meaningful ways. Sounds soppy, but very true, especially in these times. Absolutely, Neil. I'm not even going to expand on that. Kirsty says she agrees with you as well. And Charles says, can one really service more than 300 clients effectively? I would say that depends. But I would say, yeah. So let me get through the rest of the presentation. I'll come back to that question and see, you know, what I think. But yeah, I don't think, if you really think about your time and you really want to do good work, you know, then I would say you should be looking at less than that. But it depends on how you define clients, because I've got a notion that maybe you should decide, listen, I want to work with 100 or 150 families. So those number of people in those families may end up to be more than that. But you could meet with multiple people at once, you know, so it's easier to deal with 300 or 400 clients maybe in that setting. So it just depends on how you define clients, and then how many of those you can really service effectively. And it'll be different for different businesses also, because some businesses may have 1,000 clients, but they've got 4 or 5 advisors working in that business, you know, so depending on how you look at it, but a per advisor thing, you know, it all depends on your definition of that. All right, so I want to ask the question, are you, by doing this, you know, I can do anything for everyone, you know, whoever needs help, I can help you, just come to me. Are you trying to boil the ocean? Now, that's a sort of a laughable notion, I guess, because, you know, have you ever tried boiling the ocean? I mean, you wouldn't even go and try, right? Simply because it's so hot. I mean, who's going to boil the sea? I mean, there's no way. Not even in the hottest parts of the world does it even get close to boiling the ocean. I mean, it's just, if you look at how long it takes to boil this much water in a kettle, imagine trying to boil an entire ocean, just how hard that is going to be. So there was this book, and many of you may have read it. If you haven't read it or listened to it on Audible like I did, then you definitely have heard about it, I'm pretty sure. But if you haven't, there's this book called Blue Ocean Strategy, and it is by 2 people, W. Chan Kim and Renee Mauborn. I hope I'm saying her surname correctly. But what they've done is that they've written this book, and the book is really about how do you create uncontested markets, and how do you make competition irrelevant. You know, so even just that, if you just look at the tagline of that book, that is definitely something that we should be looking into. Although this book wasn't written specifically for financial advisors or financial professionals in general, it's also not been written really for small business. But again, and I've said this in numerous episodes now already, that we should get a lot of information from different industries and different people, different kinds of businesses. And then we should take that information and see how can we apply it to what we do. Also then just a point maybe a little bit off the point is any book that you read, we get into this thing that I want to implement everything in the book. And then quickly, it becomes overwhelming. And even quicker than that, you don't do anything because it's so overwhelming that you just go numb and you're not able to do anything. So from that point, it's very wise, I would say, to rather look at a book and say, well, what is the one thing that I want to implement from this book? And the easiest way to do that is to maybe go through the book's index and have a look at what there is, what jumps out at you where you think like, oh, that is something that I need to look into, and then just read that chapter. And you'll quickly pick up from that chapter whether you need more information that was maybe discussed before, and you can go and look for that if needed. But often that is a standalone chapter, and you can get enough information and an idea around that chapter, and you can say, okay, I'm going to take this and go and implement it, and then see what happens. And then you can come back. So often people say between 1 and 3 ideas is a good thing if you want to implement things from a book. Don't try and implement the entire book. So if you know that your issue is, listen, I'm working my butt off, I'm not making money. The people that I'm working with isn't really people that I enjoy working with. So what is the problem? Okay, it's the focus. It's who you like, the message that you're sending out. It is. So you need to go look at something that's going to give you some solution to be able to change that. And if you just think about this book, I think what Blue Ocean Strategy did for me is that it really opens up your thinking. It really opens up the way that you view things. And as I said, I did that for a while, and then I got busy with my business, and now I've been reminded about this again. So I'm definitely going to be focusing on that for the next week or so to see, again, how can I focus on what makes me different. So I'm going to get into those details about what you should do and how you can do that. All right. When we start off, and even if you've been going, it doesn't really matter now for me, like whether you've been around for a long time or not, because we can all sit with the same issue and the same problem, is that when we start off, you enter this market where there's thousands of financial advisors. And I mean, we can look at the stats and say, and I don't know, there's no real consensus about how many financial advisors we have in South Africa, but let's say it's around 20,000. Let's just agree to agree that there's 20,000, of which almost half is tied and almost half is IFA. And of the half that's IFA, they can be working for big brokerages, or they can have their own brokerage, okay, or their own practice, however you want to call that. But let's just sort of agree that that's more or less the thing. So now you come into this, or you're already part of this, and everybody's jumping up and down. It's like when somebody asks you from stage, who would like to come and sing with me on stage? And everybody goes, yeah, me. Please, I want to come. And then like nobody's hearing you because everybody's doing exactly the same thing. Everybody's jumping up and down, shouting the same thing. And it's just like, okay, so who can you see that maybe is like, you'll see someone that maybe got a weird T-shirt on, or maybe you'll see somebody, just your eye would be drawn to somebody and you would choose that person. But that was pure luck that person was chosen. That person did nothing really to stand out. Maybe they did, I don't know. But that's what we do as financial planners. And even in my business, it's like, oh, I do training. You can get CPD with me. It's more of the same. There's many other people jumping up and down saying, do your CPD with us, do your CPD with us. So it's not only just financial planners, but when you get into that game with financial planning, then that's what we do. When we start advertising and marketing and doing all those kind of things, we say, oh, I do retirement planning, I do investment planning, I do risk planning, I can help you with your budget and your cash flow, I do tax planning, did I say estate planning, and everybody else is saying the same thing. And that's one thing as well. But I think a lot of times clients don't understand what is the difference between risk planning and estate planning. And at least they will know, hopefully, what retirement planning is. But what's the difference between retirement planning and investment planning? We just assume that people would get what we are talking about. And that's one thing. So we are all jumping up and down, shouting exactly the same thing. Now, when you think about this ocean, What do you get in oceans? Okay, well, apart from this thing being very, very big, there's also like very dangerous fish swimming around and you can't always see them. So there's sharks. So this I can sort of relate to people that have been in the industry for a long time, that's built up a big business, a very good name, because they won't worry about the things that I'm saying right now. This is more for maybe the middle of the road or the new beginner kind of advisor trying to make their mark, but they find it hard. It feels to them, even though they're building up some assets under management, even though they're building up some form of recurring revenue, they're finding it hard and hard and hard just to stay ahead, because every month it feels like we're starting again. So maybe you're listening to this and you have a completely different experience from the things that I'm saying, because maybe you've been around for a long time and you were able to build up a very well diversified income stream already. So even though markets are impacting you as well, it's maybe not as harsh as somebody who's only been in the game for 5 years, trying to sort of stay afloat now because clients are canceling. I did a session now for one of the big corporates around, what do you do when clients are canceling meetings? How do you deal with that? How can you run better virtual meetings? How can you make it better for clients? How can you enhance that experience so that clients don't feel overwhelmed by, it's new technology, it's a different way of dealing with my advisor, we need to do all kinds of different things suddenly. And, we need to start to think differently. Then, I think one of the things that really gets to me sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, because I think part of this stream is also for you to get to know me a lot better, to know what I stand for and to know how I view the world, and to see whether you identify with that or not. But one of the things we do, if everybody's jumping up and down and advertising the same thing and we're all doing the same stuff, what we then do to try and distinguish ourselves or make ourselves unique or make ourselves stand out is focusing on the latest and greatest products, focusing on the cheapest products, right? So, I can get it for you for cheaper. I can do this. And there are people, that's valuable for a lot of clients. Just how cheap can I get it? As long as I have at least what I need, the cheapest, then that's fine. So there's nothing wrong per se with that strategy, but you're still competing and you are still reliant on the product provider about what they do, and the other problem that you sit with is, for a very long time, you're marketing this kind of company or this kind of product because that's the latest and greatest. It's the cheapest. It is whatever your reasons are for doing that. And now somebody else comes out with a cheaper product and a better product, and now you shift. So now you think that your value is in telling clients that, this was great now for the last 5 years, but now there's this. Now we need to move there. And that is part of what we do, and that's part of the value that you need to give your clients. But just think about what that could do to the trust relationship, to the perception. The first time you do that, that's fine. But then later there's another product that's now better and newer. So now again, and this is nothing to do with replacements. I'm not even going there. I'm just saying that your focus and you're building your value around products and advising on what the best product is to do. And that's how people then start to view you. They immediately link your value to the cheapest price. They immediately link your value to just, what is the best product. And that will attract those kind of clients for whom that is important. And if that's how you build your business, then that's great. That's a strategy, and that is one way to go. So nothing wrong with that. But you also need to think about the long-term sustainability of that, what your brand stands for, how people view you, the kind of people that they will refer to you because of that. All of those things then start to play a role. So it's important that we consider these kind of things. The other thing, I laugh every now and then. The other thing that I see people doing is we start focusing on the latest buzzword, and in financial planning, there's always something, in financial planning, the latest ones is financial coaching, financial or lifestyle financial planning, those kind of things. And I always just ask the question, I'm just wondering, when the client hears lifestyle financial planning, does that even make sense to them? Now, obviously, it's like any other product or any other service. We need to explain to them what it is about, and that's part of marketing and branding and all of that. So you have to have something. I mean, any big company has got a word or a sentence or something that they've built their business around, and how they built their brand and do marketing, etc. So that's cool. Everybody starts off with something that nobody knows what it is, and then it's that job to do that, but we try and distinguish ourselves by changing our titles, our sort of words, using buzzwords, etc. But we still do the same things we did when we started off. So if those two things are misaligned, then that is a problem. If you change the things you offer, and because we need to evolve, right? Do you agree? We must evolve. So it's fine if you started off doing this and now, here's a thing called lifestyle financial planning. I like that. That makes sense to me. My clients will get a lot of value from this. You learn everything about it. You start offering it to your clients, and now you change your own behavior. That's a great thing. You are evolving. My issue is with people using buzzwords and not changing their behavior. So they say one thing, but they still do the other thing. It's like, I just see that there are people out there, saying, well, if your business is like under pressure now, we're going to teach you how to get through this time, and we're going to show you how to do different things. And all they're doing is they're still selling their products that they've always been selling, whether it's coaching or whether it's a training program or whatever it may be. But they're still focusing on, or they're still selling exactly the same thing, but they're now just abusing the current situation to say, what, if you want to get through this whole lockdown period, then come to us. We're going to show you how to get through this. And I'm sorry, but things that we did before this happened is not going to work anymore. This is now, we need to change things. We need to change our thinking. And that's why you'll hear me on all the episodes. I'm giving you ideas and things that you can think about. I want to get your thinking going. I don't have all the answers, but what I do have is things that we can think about and things that we can consider to get to our own answers. And by creating this community, we can talk to one another and we can share ideas. And even you don't have to connect and ask your questions here on LinkedIn or here on YouTube or anything. You can now connect with one another directly, whether it's via email or you want to phone one another, or you want to set up your own Zoom session. That's the power of this. So if you can connect with people in the chat, build a relationship, and you say, well, you know what, this is my situation. It seems like you're in the same. Let's sort of see how we can get through this. That's really what this is about. So all of this that I've just been explaining to you is sort of for me trying to boil the ocean by doing all of this, by trying to shout the loudest and jump the highest and focusing on products and buzzwords and things like that. That is just like trying to boil the ocean, because you just disappear in the crowd, really. And this is what the book refers to as a red ocean. And it's red for a reason. Well, one, because it's overcrowded, but two, because there's blood in the water. A lot of time, there's a lot of competition, and the more competition there is, obviously, then, and I just think about, like, another thing is there's a lot of advisors who say, listen, that's where it started. I don't take any upfront fees, nothing. So you can come and invest with me for free. Of course, we use that word. And then they take a 1% ongoing, which is cool. But we've done those calculations to show, what is the impact. And we did. We went like 100% the one way and then 100% the opposite way to say, well, let's just say back in the day, you could take a 5% upfront fee. And then if you did that and no ongoing, if you say to anybody, I'm taking 5% plus VAT upfront, they would think that you are crazy, one, and two, that you are stealing, basically. But you look at the impact of that over a 10, 15, 20, 30-year period versus no upfront and a 1% ongoing, you will be amazed at the outcome of those things. So, it's always balance. What works for you in your business? But that's what competition did. One person started saying, I'm not going to charge you an upfront fee. Clients like that. They invest $1 million. They want to see $1 million go into the investment. And there you go. So those are some of the things. If I think about competition, that is the thing. There's also advisors obviously giving discount on upfront commissions, on risk policies, etc. Because I don't know, and I've always said this is the one game where we always try and talk ourselves out of income. We are also always downplaying our value. So what we're trying to do is get like a cheaper premium for the client. And then in that process, if you do a cheaper premium, you earn less on that sale, all right? And it's just what we've been doing. So where other people are trying to up their value and charge more and get more money, it feels like we're going the opposite way. Now, luckily for us, inflation is helping us, because the value of what, or the amount of money that people need in order to be, or what they need to be covered for because of their salaries increasing over time, we did tend to sell larger policies, for example. But what if you are fee-based, and what if you focus on the advice and you don't focus on product implementation and those kind of things? Are you doing the same thing? Are you downplaying your value and just saying, what can you afford? You can only afford 1,000, so I only charge 1,000, although it's worth 10,000. And rather than looking at, well, am I working with the right client? I'm just seeing like, who can I work with? And anybody that's willing to pay me anything is going to be okay. Also, the other problem that we sit with in terms of red oceans is that, if you really want to win in that market, so if you do get into this market, or if you are in this market, there's a few things that, it doesn't say that you can't win or that you can't have success. I think there's a few things that play a role. On the one hand, you can be lucky. Okay. You get a couple of big deals, or you pick up a big client, and that sort of opens a door for you. So you can be lucky, although I think you can be very intentional about that and how to get clients like that. Or if you are very well connected, so you have a good client base that you can start with, good connections that you can start with, they already trust you, they already will listen to you, then that's a great idea. And then also, maybe start off with a lot of money that'll buy you some time, or you can do more advertising than anybody else, or you can have your brand being put out there more professionally from day one because you've got a lot of money that you can throw behind this. But those are some of the things that can cause you to be successful in the red ocean. So it's not that if you find yourself there, now you are really stuck going forward. So let's see. There's obviously a lot happening here. So let me see. I see you're having great conversations there. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for everybody that's answering questions. Yeah, so I'll get to some of those questions or some of those comments at the end. I've still got some things I need to go through here, so I don't want to waste time unnecessarily. Alrighty, so the next one is, so what should you do then? Because how people like to paint these gruesome pictures, red ocean, sharks, blood. It's bad. And so yeah, I mean, where to start? Even if you've been around for a long time, that's the one thing that I always said to a lot. I've always said it. If you're in this industry or this profession, doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a financial advisor, financial planner, whether you are a broker consultant, whether you're a manager, whether you're a franchise principal, it does not matter what you do. It doesn't matter how long you've been here. The day you decide to do things differently, that's the day you can start and change things. So it doesn't matter, I'm so far down this road now, I'm stuck, I must just keep going, even though there's some form of a I don't know, a drop off somewhere. So what you want to do is just focus on a few things, and first realize that, listen, I am able to change things. I am able to offer more value. I'm able to position myself differently from tomorrow, or from today actually. But let's just say you take today to do some planning. So then from tomorrow. So the starting point would really be to go and identify, if you're an existing advisor, take your existing client base and go look at that really critically and identify. I mean, you can print out a list from your CRM, or if you've got an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, get a list and just take a pen and a highlighter maybe and go sit with that list and say, which people do you really, really like to work with? And there's maybe one or two things that you may notice from that, is that they tend to sort of do the same thing possibly. They may be, the same kind of people. Maybe they do different things, but they are the same kind of people. They are just nice people. They are friendly. They are appreciative of what you do. So there's a lot of things that can play a role here. But maybe that's one place to start. Is just go and look at the people that you do like, so highlight them, all right? And then you take them and then go look at what are the similarities in there. What are the things that really, I think, what have they got in common? And maybe try and identify why you love working with them so much. Maybe you just have a passion for business, and they all happen to be business owners. And therefore, you want to focus more on that, and you can help them better because you're a business owner and you have a real passion for that. So that's maybe a good starting point. Maybe you feel like, none of the things that I do, none of the people that I work with in my practice is really getting me excited, or it's work that I like it, but it's not It's not that fulfilling kind of role, or you're all over the place at the moment. So then what you should do is just forget about your existing client base and go and sit down and identify things that you are really passionate about, things that you really like to do. And because you start there. That's what happened with me. I never would have started a training business ever, okay, unless I realized that this is what I love doing. I like helping people, one. I like teaching people new things. I help people. I like to help people become better at what they do. And I like to see people be successful and flourish. That's what I like. And all of that then boiled down to me, sort of let me share my knowledge and let me help people and do things like that. That's how that started. There's a real passion for it. It then happens to be in financial services because that's where my knowledge and my experience and my expertise lies. So I could also say, well, how do I help small business owners? Or how do I help, I don't know, just people to teach online, for example. So there's many different things that I could change in that regard. But from your point of view, I think, if you start there and you can identify certain things that you're very passionate about and things that you really love to do, and then you go and look at, okay, but am I part of any groups or any communities or anything that's got to do with that, So I don't know, maybe what can I think about? Let's just say, for example, that you're a car fanatic. All right. So sorry for the ladies, maybe, but I know some ladies are also very fanatical about cars. But let's just say that you're fanatical about cars. You know everything about cars. You know the latest and greatest. You know the difference between a GT and I don't know, because I don't know. But, you really know, and that's what you spend all your time on. And that's also an easy way to identify what you're really passionate about is what are the things that you're reading about all the time, that you're listening to, that you're watching, that you can talk about for hours without stopping. Like if somebody else talks about it, you are so into that conversation because that is what makes you, that will show you that you are passionate about that. And it's important to start there. But then if you go look at, let's say, cars, so you're part of, I don't know, online communities or physical communities, clubs, those kind of things, that is maybe something that you should focus on. So now within that, you can say, oh, okay. And I'm just going to give a very wide example, all right? So this isn't like maybe feasible for you, but let me just go so you can get the drift of what I'm trying to say. So when you start focusing on this, you can say, oh, car lovers. So because we've got something in common, it'll be easy to build rapport. We can talk for hours about this. I understand, what it's like, specifically if somebody's collecting cars or doing things like that, but those are the kind of things that you can focus on and say, well, those are the kind of people, I understand them. I'm one of them. Maybe that is a segment or a niche or something that I can start to focus on. But again, that is so wide, to say, well, cars. There are so many people out there who love cars and that know their stuff about cars. But within that, you can maybe say, oh, maybe you are I don't know, what's that thing called, a Cobra? You are a Cobra fanatic specifically. So within the car segment, you can now say, well, I love Cobras and I know everything about Cobras. You want to know about a Cobra? You're looking for a part for a Cobra? You come to me and I can set you up with that. So now you're going down even further to say, well, it's good to say, well, I only want to deal maybe with clients who has a passion for cars, as an example, because we understand one another and we share that passion. But now what if we go and niche even further down and say, people who are into Cobras, because now, you start to stand out because now it's becoming very, very specific. So when somebody needs something about Cobra, are they going to go to the person who knows a lot about cars, or they're going to go to the person who knows a lot about Cobras? They're going to go to the guy or the lady that knows a lot about Cobras. And I'm not talking about the snake, by the way. If you are lost now completely, it's not snakes, it's a car. Okay. And those are the things that we need to consider. So you can do exactly the same thing in your business to say, let's just say, for example, you like to work with business owners, all right? Because you have a passion like me. I have a huge passion for business. But in that business space, you get so many different business owners or different kinds of businesses, different industries. So you should go down and say, oh, okay, you work with franchise owners, for example, and you work with franchise owners in the food space, or you work even further than that, you work with franchises or business owners or franchises in the business space that only sells hamburgers, for example. and then you become that expert and known in that community. One of the things that you do need to obviously then take into account. So I would just say, just forget about viability and if the market is big enough or any of those kind of things. Just focus on, who would you like to work with, and come up with 3 or 4 or 5 different ones that you would love. So I hope you're getting my drift about what I'm trying to get at. Is just go and write down specific things. Why would you love to work with them? What would give you really like a lot of satisfaction, and what will give you fulfillment, and all those good things that we talked about when we started off. What are those things? And then you start looking at, okay, which one of these markets are a little bit more viable than the other? Is there maybe 1 or 2 that I'll like to work with most? And it's, I would then say you need to decide to work with that segment going forward. You need to make sure that you understand and know that segment extremely well, better than anybody else. In other words, that becomes a person, and everything you do should speak to that person. So if you talk about the franchise owner who's got a franchise that only sells hamburgers, you need to understand everything about that, from the kind of ingredients they use, how they make that, how they can be most profitable, how they should market, all of that kind of stuff. You should understand their challenges, understand, their staff issues, understand everything about that business owner so that you're able to advise them. And it may take you some time to get up to that. Maybe it's something you already know a lot about. That will be fantastic. But if you don't, then you need to be able to upskill yourself to be able to add a lot of value to them. Because what also tends to happen is that those people speak to other franchise owners who only sell hamburgers, and they say, you know what, I came across this lady. She is fantastic. She changed my life. And that's how it started, because it's focused on just think about it when you go and look for something specific. And I think I already spoke about this. But if you look at something specific, are you going to go with a generalist, or are you going to go with a person that say, I know everything about your issue? And that answer is easy. I don't even have to answer that for you. So, what you want to do is you want to exponentially increase the value to customers by doing that, because you can put something together now that only you can do. And for you to really get there, you need a mind shift. You need to be able to think that way, and you need to believe it. You need to be confident that this is something only you can do. And here's the thing, even if you and I do exactly the same thing, we're not doing exactly the same thing in the exact same way, because we are 2 different people. So you need to understand that whatever it is that you do, only you can do it that way. Doesn't matter what it is, even financial planning you're doing at the moment. You do it your way. So there is no other person that can do it exactly the same. We can have the same qualifications. We can know the calculations the same way. We can use the same system. And I've seen this over and over again. You give a case study to a group of people, and you get, if there's 10 people in the group, you get sometimes 11 different sort of outcomes or views or whatever. And that's the thing. You are unique. So have confidence in that this is something that only you can do. So that is something that's important. So don't be a me too. All right. Don't try and just stand out. Don't just join the wors machine, a sausage machine, then if you will, but wors, everybody knows the wors machine. And don't try and do what everybody else is doing. So go and swim in the blue ocean. Stay away from the red ocean, and you can often create your own blue ocean. And in that blue ocean, there's less competition, there's less people jumping up and down, there's less noise. So it is usually easier to be seen. People will notice you, they will talk about you, because it's not a me too only. So that's a big thing that you need to consider as well. All right, but where do you start? Even if you've been around for a long time, and I think I've now, well, this is exactly what I spoke, and I say I never changed the thing on the screen. I'm sorry for that, but that's all the things that I spoke about. And what I would want to say is that, if you've identified these niches and markets, and you really become obsessed about who they are and the person they are, so that you understand them intimately, you have to know them intimately. You have to know what makes them tick, what keeps them up at night. You need to know those things, and again, don't be afraid, as I said, to go very, very specific. Like we started off with cars, then Cobras, and maybe you can even go as far as to say a Cobra of a specific year. Now, the problem is that for us, always, whether you're a consultant or whether you're an advisor, there are safety in numbers. And that is sort of, what people are asking, can you really service 300 people? the thing is, people would want to amass as many clients and customers as possible, because when you have vast amounts of numbers, you feel safe that somewhere, something, I may be lucky. And then somewhere somebody's going to do something when they want to do business with me when I least expect it. In the month that there's no business, maybe somebody's going to send me an email out of the blue, and I'll get. And so there's this safety in numbers game, which gives us a false sense of security. I don't think it's really that. So the more specific you can go, the better. Doesn't matter how weird it is. The more specific, the better. And as I said, choose those segments that you really identify with and that you really have a passion for, because that will drive you in times when it's not going well or when it's tough. Then you focus because you love doing this. When you love doing something, you always love it. It's not sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And then just the last thing that I would definitely keep in mind is viability. Just look at it from a viability point of view, so the smaller the niche, the more important it is that those people are able to pay for what it is you do. It doesn't help choosing a niche and standing out and doing all of the great things, but nobody in that niche is able to pay for your services. So that's a business principle. So you always need to consider that. All right, before I get to the next point, let me see quickly. So Matthew says, I think the beauty of niches is that you know well to something else you know well. You know well for something, maybe else you know well, if I get it right there. He says the nice thing about niches is, okay, you can apply something that you know well to something else that you know well. Yes, that makes sense. But I see it as a starting point to broaden your skill set. And I'm going to ask the next question I'm going to ask is, does this mean that you're always going to stay small, that you're always going to be focused? And there's some interesting things that I want to share with you in terms of that, because, that is, I think, the concern, because everybody's got this big dream about the kind of business they want to build, where they want to get to, what they want to achieve in life. And everybody's got that. And that is really what we are working towards. So now Francois is telling you to go smaller. But if I go smaller, how am I ever going to get to that big dream of mine? And the question then becomes, obviously now, does this mean that you will always stay small? And my answer to that is absolutely no. So I want to give you some examples of companies that started off very focused and that has become huge businesses since then. So first off, let me talk a little bit about Zoom. So everybody knows Zoom. It's very topical at the moment for various reasons. But Zoom started off focusing on a very specific target market. And, but what they did focus on was they focused on the corporate market, how to make meetings simpler, how can they integrate boardrooms and virtual with one another. So that was really the focus for Zoom. But they did it so well, and they made it so easy for people to be part of meetings and to join meetings and just to communicate with one another, that people outside of their target market started adopting this. And now that this whole lockdown stuff happened and COVID and all of it, suddenly everybody's using Zoom because of the simplicity, the ease of use, how easy it is to get on. When you look at the controls, they are very simple to understand. They don't confuse you with anything. You can record meetings. You can do a lot of stuff with Zoom, okay? But that is what made them popular. But they focused on one specific niche in the beginning, and they put everything into it to build a great product and a great service and add a lot of value for those people. And then what naturally happens is, just think about this. People working in that space also have personal lives, and they may have started using that in their personal space, and they tell their friends about it, and they tell people in other businesses about it. And that's how that thing grew until they are now what they are today in these circumstances. Regardless of the challenges they have, I think they are acting in a great way, and they are addressing everything that's an issue at the moment. But it's like any business, right? Then Amazon, you all know Amazon. Amazon is exactly what the name says. I mean, for me, it's clear that Jeff Bezos, when he sat in his garage and he had that spray-painted Amazon thing on the wall, he had a very clear vision of just how big. That's why he called it Amazon. This thing's going to be huge. But did he start off huge? No way. What did he focus on? He focused only on one thing, and that thing was books. An online store that sells something that you need in your hands, so a physical item. So he married the two, but he focused exclusively on selling books only. And now if you go look at Amazon, what are all the things that they're selling? And they only started off, obviously, in America, and they looked at books. And what he did with that is he focused on the fundamentals of his business. He built his business. He sort of figured out everything. He got people used to like buying this one thing he built a customer base. And then he said, okay, how can we branch out? They started. And before you know it, I mean, it seems like it was overnight. Like it feels like Amazon, by the time you learn about Amazon, they've always been this big. That's the idea. So we also need patience in that regard. Okay, so we have Amazon. Then we also have a company here in South Africa that I love very much, that also started off focusing on one specific thing, which is PayFast. PayFast is a online payment solution provider. They started off with only focusing on one thing. Their mission was to enable e-commerce. So they only had solutions that would allow somebody to take a payment on an online store. That's all they focused on. All right. And they built their business from there. They honed their processes, the systems, everything that was working there. And now they've evolved into this huge payments provider where you've got so many different ways of taking payments, not only on your website, but you can even just do, if somebody comes to you, you can go onto PayFast and send them a payment request where they can then pay you for whatever other service. You don't even need an e-commerce store. So it's still an online payment, but they can take payments in many different forms. So that's PayFast. They also started off like that, very small, very focused, get well known for that. And people start to trust you for that thing. And then when you start doing other things, they just immediately trust you for that. And then obviously the big one that we all know is Google. So Google didn't start off as Google as we know it today. And if you look at Google, there are so many apps that it's actually mind blowing. If you ever go onto Google Chrome and you get to just a blank browser page where it's then got your Google things at the top. If you are signed into your Google account, you click on the apps. It's like a little square with a lot of small squares inside of it. You click on that. You go and look at everything that Google offers. Your mind will be blown about everything that they do and that you can do just through Google. But they didn't start off like that. They said, well, there's one big problem. When people search on the internet, they don't find what they're looking for. And if they find it, they don't know if they can trust it. And it's a whole lot of bull. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a search engine that not only finds people the actual thing that they're looking for, but also we will make sure that it is credible and that it is of high quality. And that's what they focused on. And that's how they became known. And then off of the back of that, they started building all of the other services and applications and whatever it is that they're doing. So you don't have to stay small. You can if you want to, if that's what makes you happy and you just want to do this thing. And, as I said, it's not about how much money you make or how big you get. Often as people grow, you just start splitting profits with other people and you're not necessarily doing better. So there's a lot of things to consider. But if we ignore that, I think you can really, really build a fantastic practice that can really withstand a lot of things if you are very focused on your niche. And if you do work that you love, you're not going to work a day in your life. All right, so that is today. That's the things that I wanted to share with you. Let me go through some of the comments that I missed here on LinkedIn. Let me just see. Sure, there are many, many comments. Thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate it. Let me just see where I was. Can one really service? Neil then said to chart, it depends. Kirsty also said to chart, it depends on the type of clients that you have. For me, the answer is no. That's a perfect answer there. Slanganani said, with assistance of other people you employ, paraplanners, etc., you'll be able to service more clients. Yes, so if you support yourself with a great back office, but you will still get to a maximum. And I think it's important to understand what that maximum is for you. And then you can decide, I'm going to bring in another advisor so we can take on more clients. And that's how any business will grow. So you need to decide, do I stay small or do I want to grow? And a lot of times the issue that comes in with people employing more advisors and more people in their business is that suddenly their focus moves away from financial planning into managing of the business. And then sometimes they find themselves that they don't like doing that. So you got to know yourself very well right from the start before you get into doing things like that. So when you have a vision of, I want to build this big business with 100 advisors and all of that stuff, then you've got to be very clear on what to expect and understand that in the beginning you're going to be an advisor yourself, but over time you're going to move into more of a managing the business, a business owner role, and you're going to focus on strategy, you're going to focus on managing your people, you're going to focus on processes and systems. You're not going to be doing financial planning. So if your real passion and your real love is financial planning, then maybe that is not the route for you to go. Or you could still appoint a business manager or somebody to run the business on your behalf. You can still do the things that you love, but you still build a bigger business. So there's many ways that you can go about that. Chart said to Neil, you have to do what the Act and other regulations are stipulating. I'm not sure where that comes from. Boom. Chart says he wants to talk to Shanganani. That's great. Cindy says, yes, we specialize in short term and do with sufficient staff. Yes, I must say, so I know Cindy personally, and her operation is running really, really well. They give great service. And she decided, we've had this discussion a lot of times, it doesn't matter what opportunities there are in her client base because of her relationships. She very cleverly chooses to focus on the thing that she's an expert in, and not to just look at, there's also an opportunity to do this, there's also an opportunity to do that, to go into life, to do investments, because people ask her, trust me, she gets asked if she can help with that. But she chooses to focus on what she's good at, and that is what she's known for, and that is how she built her business into a very, very successful business at that. So Cindy, fantastic. Quibus said it started with strategic network list of 345 contacts from a successful 18-year career. And there's such an important lesson. Quibus, I remember when you told me the story the first time, how you got started. And there's one big lesson in that, is that whatever relationships you're building, wherever you find yourself today, maybe you are employed somewhere, and maybe you're watching this because you want to start a business or because you want to become a financial planner, whatever your reason is. Maybe you're just interested to hear what we're talking about. But the important thing is that whatever relationships you're building where you are, don't ever take that for granted, because you never know, when you can mean something to them or they can mean something to you. So every single relationship that, it's so easy for us to decide, this person is never going to do anything. I'm not even going to do or take the effort in order to build this relationship or to nurture. You never know what happens. So you must treasure every single relationship that you're building, and those relationships that are not for you, cut them and move on, but don't burn bridges. So that's very important. He goes on to say, interacted with 55 of the 345 and got sufficient introductions from them, so did not need the rest. You see, why? Great relationships from the start. Niche focus is on 60% SMEs, 10% professionals, 10% corporate, BEE, senior management, 10% corporate funds, and 10% domestic market. So your main focus is SMEs. So that's great. You see, there's clarity. Like, this is who I focus on. So when you put out content, when you talk, those are the people that you want to talk to. So that's important. Yesterday we spoke about, like, when you create content, not yesterday, the day before, sorry, when was it? On Friday, in episode 15, I spoke about content creation. And there we also spoke about, when you create content, who are you speaking to? Who are you attracting and who are you repelling? So that's very important. Do not per se do segmentation, as your D client can become an A client. Treat all clients as A clients with respect, and no matter the value on the books. Yes, there's a thing, Kobus, that I also speak about around segmentation, in that there's one critical element that people don't look at. And maybe that'll be my next thing tomorrow. We can maybe talk about ideal clients and segmentation, etc., because there's some interesting things that I want to share around that. So I'm on the same page as you there, with maybe one or two little tweaks to that. Yes, so it's probably should not be the drive. Then let me just see. So there's a lot of chat going on. I love it. Then Shlanganani asks, can we have a multi-niche, e.g. farmers, business clients, and retirees? Yes, you can. You can. But when you are doing your marketing and your thing, at a time, you should only be speaking to one of them. Because the farmer would think, like, but what has this got to do with, being an SME? Even though they are an SME sometimes they're large business. But, a farmer has very specific things. So you could definitely do that. But be very clear in your marketing that you don't speak to all three at once. So whatever you're doing, you speak to one of them at a time. And maybe you can choose which one is your your most important one. And maybe when you talk about small business clients, you can maybe mention in there, we often also work with farmers, because farmer is a type of an SME. So you can always bring that kind of thing in there, but you can have multiple niches. If you think about a company like Talisure, you think about Auto in General, you think about First for Women, you think about Budget. It's all the same company. It's all the same company, but they've identified different niches. They've created a value proposition for each and a product for each, and each company just focuses on that one type of client. But it's all the same company. I don't know if you knew that. But yes, it's definitely possible. Carol, hello, Carol. She says the key is just to start and build yourself from there. Yes, it's because if you just sit there, nothing's going to happen, right? And Kobus said to Shlangandani, absolutely and strongly suggested. Imagine you focused only on restaurant owners and COVID-19 happens, your book would be a significant problem. Like any business, it is about diversification. Absolutely. I've got no problem with that. And that's what will happen naturally over time as well as you build your business. Because within small business, to get noticed, you may want to start off with something very, very specific. And then, as I said, all the examples over time you can build out. And then Neil says, following on from my reply above, my clients in the travel industry have suffered badly, but other clients in the IT industry are booming at the moment. So again, it comes back to that diversification thing, But even in that, you can decide IT. I work with IT businesses. I work with IT professionals. I work with IT freelancers. Even within that, you can niche, or I work with IT people. So that's up to you. Slankanai says, thanks for all the effort. I think you should have a number of niches. However, the way you market to clients, they must think that are your only niche. You see, that's Kirsty's echoing about what I said earlier. For example, if you market to doctors, then they must believe that you only specialize in doctors' businesses. And how do you do that? Well, whenever you put something out, you only talk about doctors in that specific article. Or what you do is you decide, like, when I do my marketing and my branding, I only focus on this specific niche. And this is where people always think, like, what's going to happen is that none of the other people that I would also like to work with are going to contact me. The funny thing is the opposite happens. When they see you as an expert and they see you as somebody that they can trust, they will still ask you, you know what, I know you only work with doctors, but are you able to help me? And often what happens is those doctors will refer some of their family to you and some of their other friends to you. That all their family isn't doctors and all the family isn't all the friends isn't doctors. So they will refer other people to you. I know you work a lot, but can you help them? So those things will still happen because they trust you and you are well known as an expert in that sense. Great stuff. That was a fantastic conversation. Let me see. I see there's one thing here on YouTube. Oh, I've run over on time, but luckily it's weekend. So nowhere to be, nothing to do, except if you're watching an online church service maybe. But there you go. Thanks for the session, says Matthew. Best way to start the day during this lockdown. Thank you very much, Matthew. And again, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the Cape Townians for being here today. You really rocked the house today, but everybody else as well. Please put this in your diary if you haven't already. We're here every morning from 8 a.m. until 9. Sometimes we go a little bit over, when it has to, but I try and keep to the 9 o'clock. And even if you can't make it right to the end, we are recording these sessions. They're available on the YouTube channel afterwards, on my LinkedIn profile. You can see all of it there. If you go look at my activity, all of the videos are there. I also pin them to the top of my profile, so it's easy to find. So yeah, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for all the great conversations and all of the great comments. I really, really appreciate your time. And it's a privilege to serve and to help you. So go enjoy another coffee. Say hi to the wife and the husband. Thank you that you could spend this time with me. And I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you so much. Enjoy.